We are on July 16th, 2026, and a lot of good news coming out. Um, a lot is happening, and of course, today being Thursday, because we're burning the midnight oil, it's 1 a.m. in the morning. Can't be helped because so much is going on. Like I say every day. So, okay. So, today is 2000. Oh my gosh. It's so many days, y'all. 2,173 days. 2,173 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room, even though he was under 24-hour whistleblower protection. They arranged it so that he would have no protection, so they could forcibly remove him and drag him, many of them, down to the arms room of the same building, building 2479 on Fort Bliss, to the arms room, which is a secure room, limited access, soundproof room, and that's where they took his life. They took his life. He fought hard. We received information that one of the perpetrators had to have emergency dental surgery afterwards. Um, uh, but Richard lost his life, and they trafficked his body across the border. They stole it off of Fort Bliss and trafficked his body over to Mexico. Sorry, I just always get it's never easy. It's never easy, and even though I've been saying this for years, for years, every day, 2,173 days. Um, and of course, it is July 16th, 2026. And this day, well, the 15th was just amazing because President Trump has now expanded the list uh, of the terroristic organizations. I have the notes here because I think it's really important to get all of the terroristic organizations. So it was really the U.S. Department of Treasury that designated the Juarez Cartel and Los Viagras as foreign terroristic organizations, adding them also to the specially designated global terrorists list. And this is really important because it is part of the sanctions. And I'm going to read what all that means um, when you uh, have this designation. Along with the Sinaloa cartel, the CJNG cartel, the Jalisco New Generation cartel, that's what that is, the Gulf cartel. This is all connected to Huachical, and of course all the trafficking of drugs, trafficking of humans, um, uh, specifically children, trafficking of weapons, ammunition, anything that can't be bolted down, like MREs, trafficking MREs, stealing, theft, outright theft, fraudsters, and also very, very violent perpetrators. So this is all connected together. And I'm sorry, it's like 1 o'clock at night going through all of this. And so, what this means is the freezing of assets, prohibition of transactions, sanctions against anyone who provides material support to the cartel. This is and also barring them from entering the United States, Also facilities of international cooperation. Uh, this will track financing networks and strengthen the investigations and the intelligence operations. So, this is the really brutal negotiations for the repatriation of our son, Richard Halliday, because his remains as a U.S. Army soldier being killed in the line of duty on base was stolen off of base and trafficked through the cartel network, the terroristic organization now, to Mexico for disposal, which is an act of war. It really is an act of war. Um, and then all of the fuel theft, the children being trafficked, 500,000 children being trafficked through Fort Bliss, using our military for for their for their use, right? Using our taxpayer money, our military, our national security, and violating it, breaking security, and using it for cartel fuel theft, trafficking, uh, child sex trafficking, child sexual exploitation, um, using it for that, using the transportation of it, using all of the assets of it, using our military soldiers for that. Um, it really is, they are a terroristic organization that have infiltrated into our military. And when this first started, and we said, we don't know how it happened, but we know this is what happened. People would be like, no way, that would require a huge terroristic organization to do it that had infiltrated our country, our military, our institutions, um, our agencies in order to do something like that. And yeah, and now we have it 6 years later. And we have documented how that's exactly what has happened. And President Trump has now designated the Juarez cartel, which is very important in our son's case, um, because of Plenitude Crematorium, the owners, the Rafael Ariano Curon that uh, owns Argo Oil and Gas, um, that is directly tied to El Paso Matters, which is owned, operated for the benefit of El Paso Community Foundation. And it looks like really, um, I think it needs to be investigated for being a front or an organization for money laundering. And uh, I think it was an article that came out. I'm trying to remember who it was that said this is an organization for money laundering. And um, Paredes, I think it was Paredes, and I think he's absolutely right. I think he's absolutely right. I think it's El Paso Inc. Um, yeah, I think so. I don't know. Um, don't hold me to that. But and maybe I need to post that article because this has been a little bit of a way back. I don't. Well, and I think he's absolutely right. Martin Paredes. Yeah, I think so. Um, very, very good reporting on that. That's why I'm trying to remember his name, and everything about this article. And I want to make sure that this is where that article came from. I think it's so important to give credit where credit is due. And I will absolutely look that up to be 100% sure and post it because El Paso Community Foundation um, is behind El Paso Matters, sharing office space with Rafael Ariano Coron's company, Argo Oil and Gas, which is directly tied to the El Paso cartel. He To Beto O'Rourke, right? These are really important, and owners of Plenitude Crematorium, where our son's remains are allegedly were disposed of. So this is really important to in getting our son's remains repatriated. It's difficult because that narco crematorium is connected and tied to uh, Purchase Funeral Homes. Purchase Funeral Homes absolutely was sending bodies there, okay, is part of this family uh, funeral home fraud and cross border transnational funeral home fraud. Because Plenitude Crematorium is a funeral home, also, they were uh, advertising as a funeral home for dignity. Uh, I mean, what a fraud, because here they are taking money from families and giving them, um, pulverized construction material in urns and, stuffing and just throwing the bodies everywhere, not even cleaning them up or anything. The pictures are the most horrible thing you've ever seen because they're just rotting. Over 400 of them, you know. No air condition, no potable water, rat infested, no inspections, of course, Maru Campos was in charge of all of that. As the governor of Chihuahua, her mother was the supposed to be making sure they got uh, followed the law, but they didn't have permits, they didn't have inspections. And Purchase Funeral Homes was sending bodies there, directly tied to that. And those bodies that were recovered, over 400 of them, were given to the care of Purchase Funeral Homes that has refrigeration for 700 bodies. And if you want to say, hey, I want to complain about this because where is the identification of these 400 bodies? They have only identified a portion of them. Um, where are the rest? It's been over a year. And, and now you know why, because Purchase is the perpetrator who is in charge of the evidence, keeping the evidence. It's this is a vicious negotiation for our son's remains. Now, being part of that, being part of the Juarez cartel, he's part Salvador Purchase Jr. Um, and of course, Rafael Arellano Coron and his fugitive brother, Jose Luis Arellano Coron, and of course the mother, um, which is Rosa Maria Purchase Arellano Coron, um, Rivera, I believe. Uh, and, they're very, I mean, they're in El Paso. They're all in El Paso. They're fugitives in El Paso. And now they look at what it says here. You cannot be in the United States if you are aiding and abetting a terroristic organization such as the Juarez Cartel and the Sinaloa Cartel, which they are. Because the El Paso Cartel, this is, oh gosh, I'm just thinking about the implications of all this. Oh my gosh, y'all. I'm just thinking about the implications of all of this because think about this. This is Alejandra de la Vega Foster. Yeah, it makes me cry. It's my son's body in the rat infested. Um, yeah. And this is the vicious negotiations because these people are monsters. This is sacrilege. This is inhumane. Piling up bodies. They weren't even piled up, they were thrown. they were thrown and stuffed and, just in they were in different positions. It's hard to even describe. And this is Alejandro de la Vega Foster, the watchical thief, the double agent, um, the El Paso cartel operative with her husband, Paul Foster, and Woody Hunt, El Paso Community Foundation, and West Star Bank, and Marathon Oil, and um, Arco gas stations with a group of Carvel, with Maru Campos being really aiding and abetting them. Wow, this is and Connell Wenton and the Mormon mafia leader that, disguises himself as an FBI agent there in El Paso FBI office. I mean, this is huge, y'all. This is so huge. This is such a great day. I need to pop a bottle of champagne. Um, it is just a huge when I'm thinking about all the implications of this. What President Trump look at all the finances of these individuals that have these enormous companies worth billions. Now, they're all a target of the U.S. Treasury because they're so criminal. They are so criminal that they are terroristic organizations. Absolutely. Because see, Alejandro de la Vega Foster doesn't just operate. See, it's a special, right? These are special designated global terrorists, right? So they are foreign terroristic organizations because Alejandra de la Vega Foster has, she was serving on the Chihuahuan administration while at the same time simultaneously serving for uh, Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Even Greg Abbott now, oh my gosh, because he signed the treasonous treaty with Maru Campos. I mean, this is huge. And let's think about the media part of it. El Paso Matters, it's doomed. And Al Diario is the Juarez cartel. So you know, it, it's just it takes me a minute, it takes me a day. It hasn't even been a whole day to really think about all the implications in this. Talk about the vicious negotiations for the repatriation of our son's remains. A national hero, okay? Richard is absolutely a national hero. He stood up against these. Just look up Marathon or Argo Oil and Gas, or the and the amount of wealth that Salvador Purchase has, right? And Almayo, 15 billion. He had a forfeiture. Just his forfeiture for his arrest is $15 billion. And they send his lawyer, Ray Velarde, to be Richard's lawyer for counterintelligence, right? So this designation of the Juarez cartel, now I understand why it took President Trump a little bit longer to designate the Juarez cartel as this for an FTO and a special terroristic organization marker because at the day one he designated several, like CJNG and Sinaloa cartel, the Gulf cartel, and I think I'm the Northeast cartel. Uh, and now to have the Juarez cartel, I understand because the implications at the beginning, w- to they must have the law enforcement now to and have positioned themselves enough. Um, what, in a year and a half, a year and a half, to position themselves and um, get the law enforcement and whatever procedures that it will take to get accountability, right? To get accountability, to get Richard's remains and accountability. It's just enormous. Absolutely amazing that he got that in place in a year and a half. And also that people understand that these people are fuel thieves. They made their money by stealing it, by using our tax funded agencies, organizations, our military. Um, eh, they had uh, think about it. David Frost being paid as an NCO at Fort Bliss in the 1st AD U.S. Army, and then they were paying him as a FBI agent, lead agent for the Walmart mass shooting, and then they, you know, most likely, allegedly, on the secret payroll because he was in the Fiscalia with, and this is confirmed, that he was in the Fiscalia with Carlos Manuel Salas, directing Carlos Manuel Salas, the prosecutor, the attorney general for the North Zone of Chihuahua, Mexico, to bury Richard's case, to not look for his remains, to just tamper with our missing persons um, report that we went over there uh, and submitted and tampered it, taking advantage that we don't know Spanish, um, trusting that that office would put down on paper what we said, and the desperation of Gold Star families that were told that our son was just missing when they knew all along that he was killed in the line of duty, taken to that basement room because why they knew all along, because they had it sealed as a crime scene, and then they had it renovated without any regard to expenses, an illegal order, and no regard to any of the military procedures to do that. So, yeah, it is. Yes, the Juarez cartel has been designated. Um, this is what I'm reading. Let's check it out again. Juarez cartel. A terroristic. We should ask AI, but this is the Juarez cartel has been designated as a foreign terroristic organization by the Department of Treasury, which allows for sanctions that freeze, prohibit transactions. Can you believe it? Freezes assets and prohibit transactions involving this cartel. This designation is made due to the cartel's significant criminal activities and ties to the U.S. Mexican border. This is huge. This is so huge because this is Osvaldo Rodriguez Barunda, who is the owner of Al Diario. Um, he lives in El Paso. This Carlos Manuel Salas, he lives in El Paso. The Arliano Corones live in El Paso. Salvador Purchas Jr., he lives in El Paso. Alejandra de la Vega Foster, she lives in El Paso. Woody Hunt lives in El Paso. Paul Foster lives in El Paso. And I would say Rick Francis, who runs the Santa Teresa International Jetport. He's been aiding and abetting them. I mean, look, Connell Wetton lives in El Paso. He must be on the run because he absolutely is a mafia. He's absolutely, I mean, this is so big because they've been aiding and abetting the Juarez cartel. And they must have got some information from El Flaco, right? Uh, you know, I don't know. All I know is that this is true. This is huge. That I cannot even tell Americans how huge this is because the Sinaloa was big, right? But the Juarez, oh, it when it comes to our son's case, this is and of course Maru Campos, she's tied into all of it, right? The Sinaloa and the wars. This is their worst nightmare. So Paul Foster, he can have all his assets frozen. Oh, I just am like, uh, I just feel like this is my birthday and Christmas and Easter and New Year's Eve all rolled into one. It's like it's huge. It's so huge. So thank you so much, Enrique. Yeah. Um, in order to get to where we are, you understand, we're just a little family, right? But we're a loving family. We wanted to know what happened to our son, to be targeted for that. We were surrounded and targeted by these operatives from even the generals because the generals in this, like, I think this is the worst nightmare for Clem Coward and these generals that got 2 and 3 stars for doing this criminal activity with the Juarez cartel and the Sinaloa cartel, the theft, because Curtis Taylor and Eisenhower and Sean Bernabe and of course these 4-star generals like Michael Garrett, because they sent their operatives to us as counterintelligence, also to intimidate, to threaten us, to mislead us. At first they're nice and then they got ugly when we were like, no, this doesn't make sense. And the whole thing, the whole narrative that was coming out, it was just so ludicrous, so outrageous, that it was clearly an operation. And because I was born at White Sands Missile Range, because I went to school in El Paso, because I knew Fort Bliss really well, I lived on Shed Road for many years. Um, I jogged all over Fort Bliss and went over to Juarez all the time, when I was younger. And of course, my husband also, because he was on Biggs, right? Because my father-in-law was Air Force on Biggs. And then being German on top of that and knowing about Operation Paperclip, knowing about all the German scientists that were brought in, the history of El Paso and the military um, and knowing about because if you can survive 8th grade at Bassett at Bassett, how many people have gone to Bassett School and I can tell you a lot of stories there going there to that school. So I knew that what they were telling us about our son was so ludicrous, so off the wall, such lies, right? Because the cartel would never allow what they were telling us, okay? Because they are too organized. They are organized or infiltrated, and of course we knew our son that distinguished honor graduate, um, Clept out of college German and college math. 12 hours in one afternoon he clept out of. Okay. Took the college equivalent test in just one afternoon and had 12 college credits. Um, and being raised the way he was raised, um, I knew that it was just, and then having the scores that he had and being promoted so quickly, and then they were telling us all this stupid narrative. I'm like, no, sorry, he was a whistleblower, and you're attacking him. He's a whistleblower, and sure enough, it's been all confirmed, and they targeted him big time. He was not just a whistleblower, he was the whistleblower, the Fort Bliss whistleblower, and he just blew the lid off of this whole billion-dollar trafficking, watchical, um, cartel that had been in place for decades, that had been building. It is Fast and Furious. It is the Iran Contra. He blew the lid off of that, so much so that they had to orchestrate a Walmart mass shooting to divert the law enforcement investigations, and also to attack President Trump, who was auditing, his administration was auditing, because Richard's whistleblower reports were triggering auditing, right? And we were told that by the generals that they were auditing. And that the IG were all over the barracks because of Richard. And it wasn't just the barracks, it was all over Fort Bliss. That was CID Soto. He let that out of the bag. And we knew what that meant. Uh, but it took 6 years to fully understand um, what was going on, right? What was going on. And so we just had to um, firm, stand firm, and know that, we just had to document everything, record and document everything, and file it. Make sure, even with those corrupt agencies, with the FBI, how Connell Wetton, with the FBI, with all of the corrupt institutions, we know that. I guess it's because of being an Anglican. When you're a Roman Catholic or an Anglican, and sometimes you get these priests that aren't too swift, right? They're not all in all, right? But you know that the sacraments are not tainted at all by these priests, right? The sacraments stand on their own, right? And they cannot be tainted because they're from God. And so, because you have that kind of knowledge, then you know that our institutions that even have a Connell Wetton in them, that even have a dirty general or a dirty CID, um, and of course you have the great ones, because we cannot ever forget Julio Cordero, the absolutely greatest FBI agent El Paso has ever had, that led Operation Poisoned Ponds, right? And then what did they do when Richard's case received the designation for deceased? That was in April 24th, 2024. Julio Cordero went to work. He said, "Oh my gosh, this is those two really, these philanthropists, right? These philanthropists that are at large, right? Um, this is my opportunity to turn all my work in and get the last two that I hadn't done this was going to be Poison Ponds 2.0, the big fish. And he called up the federal prosecutor's office, and gave them information, and his name was leaked, and the next thing we know, he was killed, shot in the head, um, by the El Paso ISD corrupt police department. Um, but even with that, that gave us more resolve to file, document, record, document, file, because it's our system, the American system, that is really beautiful. And it's the laws that will absolutely um, win out over the corruption. And that's why they constantly tell us, these infiltrators, these operatives, they always tell us, I can't tell, I wish I had $1 for every time they told us, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. There's never going to be accountability. Nothing will ever get done. Nothing will ever happen. And all I could think about is how Jesus cusses out his followers, right? His disciples. How does he do it? He says, "Ye of little faith, ye of little faith," right? And they all like, oh, he'll cringe when he says that. He doesn't have to say a bad word. He just has to look at them and say, "Ye of little faith." And, so I just said, get behind me, Satan. We're going to work this. Um, this is our son. Look at what they did to him. And what they did to him, they did to our country. They did to our soldiers. They did to our dignity. They did it to God because of the sacrilege nature of what happened. Um, so no, they're not going to get away with it. No. And the way to hold them accountable is to document. And it's just been a lot of work, but jeez. Um, but this is a beautiful day. I'm really celebrating tonight. Um, I know, I know. I'm very, very grateful to be, just be steadfast, and when we get Richard's remains, because remember when they designated him deceased, and then they wanted to force us. They gave us 2 days. We live in South Carolina. 2 days. We're going to have a memorial for Richard. You better get here. Tick off the box because, they're responsible for his burial and his memorial and that, right? That's part of it. And we said, absolutely not. This case is not even done. Where are his remains? Because the paperwork clearly says that he died on Fort Bliss. There are cameras everywhere. Cameras and guards everywhere. I mean, go and ask Maru Campos because she uses Pegasus, right? She has all the cameras, the 10,000 cameras over there looking straight at Fort Bliss, and Pegasus and everybody's phone and all the phone pings. No, no, this is the beginning. This is not the end. And absolutely no way are you going to force us to tick off your box to say, you're just going to briefly, at a change of command, mention Richard's name. And not even maybe, I said, you are not allowed to mention his name at all. Because when we get his remains, he's going to have a hero, a hero funeral, not what you want to do. It's just shameful. These cartel infiltrators that wear our uniforms, our stripes, our stars, and they're absolutely traitors. Um, and so to see President Trump weed them out, which is has to be done so carefully because um, so many were um, trapped. They were trapped and compromised. They were bringing these girls on base. And a lot of these soldiers didn't even know that they were underage, and they didn't know they were being videotaped. And then they would airdrop these videotapes. Um, eh, the soldiers were shaking. When we got there, I just said it to everybody. Why are they shaking? They were so afraid. This is our military, you know? This is our military. Why are they like, uh, just shaking? Even the command sergeant major just shaking, and it's because they were compromised. They had this cartel. They had terroristic organization had organized the drugs to be brought in, the alcohol to be brought in, the partiers, um, the girls to be brought in. We know that from Command Sergeant Major Jakovitz. We know that from DES Thomas Kane, who had to give them the passes to get on. We know that they were underage. We know that they were filming it. We know they were trying to. Can you imagine this? Richard resisted all of that. Look, 19, 20, 21 years old, beautiful. I mean, have you seen my son? He was absolutely beautiful, right? Uh, and resisted all of that. Resisted all of that. I mean, he's a total hero. And, so young, so full of vigor, and still resisted all of that. Um, and they were like even pouring alcohol down people's throats. Um, and I'm worse things. So I can't even imagine what he all went through. Yeah. So this is a really in the pursuit of Richard's case and accountability and the repatriation of his remains. Today's a great day. And I'm so glad that y'all came on to share it. Let's read some of the comments. Oh, thank you, Laura. Thank you so much for your prayer and your love. And yeah, it is true. And may we soon get his remains. Yes, it's so sad. Thank you so much. Greg Abbott is a moron. Greg Abbott is a traitor. He's a traitor. And because he had Alejandro de la Vega Foster not once but twice do his inauguration, right? He went to her house. He used her planes. Yeah, those probably the same planes that they used for the Operation um, Air Kings, right? To illegally kidnap El Mayo, to get rid of their competition. He was their competition, you see. He was El Chapo's competition. He was the Juarez cartel competition, the Sinaloa cartel competition, the Gulf cartel competition. Um, yeah. Wow. My sister went to Bassett, and I can tell you too. Yes. Oh yeah, that was an experience. I'm glad I came out of it alive. Yeah. Um Oh yeah, that was a rough school. I wouldn't doubt that they, especially being blonde. Can you imagine? I was like, I think there were maybe out of probably almost 1,000 students, maybe 2 blondes, and I was one of them. Woo, that was a tough year, but I had, karate. My dad made me learn karate and all that. Um, I wouldn't doubt that they worked with the Chinese to oh, that whole thing, yeah, that whole thing with the mask and, oh, that was to shut everyone up. Oh, yeah, it was huge. It was huge, and it was all about this Watchable and all the trafficking, yeah. But the Watchable funds it all, see? That's why the oil theft, right, funds all that other trafficking, right? And all that other trafficking, like the children trafficking, that's all, sorry, uh, that's all to compromise everybody, to get dirty evidence to blackmail people so that they're very evil. Woe to you who puts a stumbling block in front of my children. Woe to you. You can put a millstone around your neck and throw yourself in the abyss. I mean, that's what God says. It's just like they wanted people to be to be in these terrible situations that would compromise them, and then they videotaped it, and they had Mario Couples had a 10,000 cameras on you, so she could blackmail everyone, use this harvest all this data and everything. As you said, Mrs. Halliday, cartels have been building up for decades. It's time they are torn down. Evil people may seem strong and scary, yet they are actually weak and fearful of other. Well, and they fear the light, don't they? They don't want to be exposed. Among them and being caught, I pray for continuous uh, constricting of these operatives. Goodness overcomes evil. Let's pray often. And it's true. We are all hurt by these awful bad characters. Absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you so much, Carol, for those really profound words and speaking the truth. So uh, the narrative is it's almost there. It's almost there. El Paso matters now. Oh my God. They attacked all the lies they were telling people and the not just the people, but the courts, you see, and the law enforcement, because the stories, the articles that are written by journalists are used in courts of law and by law enforcement. And so what they do is is very important work. And when they do false narratives, it is so evil. It is real, very, very criminal, and they need to be held accountable for that. So this is the way Trump is doing it. You see, President Trump is amazing. He has designated them terroristic organizations that they are. That they are. So thank you so much, everyone, for celebrate. Well, we haven't celebrated yet. Um, but today was a very good day. So thank you so much for coming on. And please share all this information, all of the memes. Laura Rodriguez, thank you so much for sharing them. I see that you're sharing them everywhere. And others are too, especially in Mexico. Uh, all of our information is being shared. And I'm very grateful for that because that gives us a far reach, and the further reach, the better, because these are global. This here, it says global criminal organizations or terror organizations. So this is really very, very important. And we're very appreciative. Thank you so much.